We hear that fossils take a long time, millions of years. Is that really true?
That is really false.
False. Okay.
Tribal trails, they lead to life eternal.
Hi and welcome to Tribal Trails. Today we're here with Dr. Gary Parker. We hear that fossils take a long time, millions of years.
People just think fossils, millions of years,
Yeah.
go hand in hand, but fossils have to form fast or they don't form at all. And so a fossil is a remains or trace of a once living thing preserved in some kind of geologic deposit, so it doesn't count mummies, and things deliberately buried. But, if a plant or an animal just dies and falls to the ground or falls in a lake or a stream, it's just going to get eaten up by scavengers of fungus, bacteria, things like that. It's going to be decomposed very quickly, so it's going to disappear. It's not going to fossilize. You really have to preserve it quickly. I was doing a radio program and a fellow says, well, you have to believe it took millions of years to form fossils. I've been to the Petrified Forest in Arizona, and he says they're great big trees, 100 feet, over 30 meters long, stretched out, turned to solid rock. He said, must have taken millions of years to turn those great big trees into solid rock. And so I said to him, well, let's think about that a minute. If a tree fell over in a forest or a lake or a stream and just laid there for millions of years, wouldn't the termites get at it? Wouldn't the fungus begin to break it down? Wouldn't the woodpeckers and the beetles dig holes in it? And so I said, they're going to rot, they're going to decompose, but imagine those trees got swept up in a slurry of limey mud or volcanic ash, and they got buried so deep and so fast, the termites, the woodpeckers, the fungus couldn't get at them, and the minerals in the watery slurry that buried them, the minerals would crystallize in the empty spaces in the wood, and harden up, and it would preserve it so we could see it today. You know what he said? I think you're right about that. First instant convert I ever made.
Yeah.
And I had students at the Petrified Forest one time, and so I'm out there showing them all these petrified trees, and a ranger comes trucking up, and she goes, oh, I'm so glad you all came. She was really wanting to talk to somebody. And she says, we call this the Petrified Forest. Now this is a ranger. She said, but maybe we should call it the Petrified Log Jam. And she said, look out, it was on a hill there. It says, look out, and you can see all these trees, all these petrified trees are all lined up, pointed in the same direction, like loggers cutting trees and floating them down a river. And she said, and did you notice they don't have any branches? They don't have any leaves. They've been sheared off at the roots. Well, so they weren't trees that were growing in place. And it looks like they've been ripped up branches, just like when Mount St. Helens erupted in the state of Washington, back in 1980. A big slurry of landslide of mud rushed down the side of that mountain. Some of it went into Spirit Lake, sloshed a wave of water 864 feet up the side of a hill, sheared off more than 1 million trees in a matter of minutes. Broke off the branches, the leaves, sheared them off at root level, washed out as floating logs, over the lake. And as they'd sink, as they'd waterlog, the heavy end, would sink down like that into several layers. And she said, have you heard of Mount St. Helens? Oh yeah, I heard of it's God's gift to creation and flood geology. And she said, it looks like, logs can fossilize a lot quicker than we once thought. Mm-hmm. There's even a formula. You can make petrified wood in the laboratory. Maybe the most fun specimen we have in our museum. We've got specimens of a family of mammoths we helped excavate. But the one that fascinates most people is a fossil teddy bear. Okay, so my wife and I were on a creation trip to England one time and stopped in a little town in Knaresborough, and there's a limestone ledge. A lot of water can flow easily through limestone, hits a gully, so it kind of breaks off and water just drips out the end. And this dripping water, somebody asked a question with which science begins. I wonder what would happen if. And so they took some soft, spongy things, teddy bears, felt hats, things like that, and just hung a few of them up in this dripping water coming out of the limestone. Well, sure enough, the water evaporated, left the calcium carbonate, left the carbonate behind, and so it filled in the pore spaces in the teddy bear and the fossil hat and so on. And in just 3 months, that soft, cuddly teddy bear was turned into a fossilized teddy bear. Fossilized in quotes, it wasn't once alive, but it's the same process called permineralization. In other words, minerals filling in, permeating the pore space, just the empty space in wood or bone or shell. And of course, all the surface area in the wood, bone, and shell, rapid crystallization. Yeah. Well, now the woodpeckers aren't going to bother them. Now the fungus really can't get a foothold. And of course, they're buried deep enough too. And so that's how they get preserved. And if that doesn't happen, they don't fossilize. And so even evolutionists will agree that fossils have to form fast or they don't form at all. Time never formed a single fossil. Time is the enemy of fossil formation. The more time that goes by after a plant or animal dies, or a human being, the less likely it is to be a fossil. You got to bury it quick, mineralize it quick. That happens today. One place it happens is in the Indian part of Grand Canyon, laid out along Havasu Creek. And boy, oh boy, it's this beautiful turquoise blue-green water, big waterfall and all this. But that water is so lime-rich that leaves and twigs that fall in it get mineralized. And of course, that creek flows down to the Colorado River, and it keeps washing out fossilized leaves and twigs and seeds and things like that all the time, right before our very eyes. And so we know how fossils can form fast. We don't know how they can form slowly. But, and evolutionists say, you're right. Flood conditions are ideal conditions for forming fossils. You get a lot of mineral-rich water, and you get a lot of sediment dumped on top of a lot of living things all at the same time. So flood conditions are perfect for forming fossils. And a knowledgeable evolutionist might say, yep, you're right. See that trilobite, that fossil sea creature over there? That formed rapidly under flood conditions about 500 million years ago. See that dinosaur bone? That formed rapidly under flood conditions. And, fossils of mammals like we find, well, they're 50 million years ago. That's what evolution says. But I like to ask two more questions. What does science say, and what does the Bible say? And so evolution says millions of years. Science and the Bible say, thousands of years. And so we've looked at some of this already in other programs. I mentioned a T-Rex leg bone, found in the wilds of Montana. They were excavating a fossil leg bone, wrapped it up, and it was too heavy to carry, so they had to cut it in half. And on the inside, it's practically bleeding. Soft, squishy bone marrow, stretchable blood vessels, blood cells with DNA and their nucleated blood cells. Wow! And that stuff decomposes very quickly. There was a little bit of mineralization around the outside of the bone that kind of made a protective chamber to keep that soft tissue. And the evolutionists didn't know what to do with that. It couldn't possibly be 68 million years old. And carbon dates. You can get carbon-14 only lasts a few thousand years. And yet carbon-14 has been found in fossils all over the world. And now that the evolutionists have been forced to accept soft tissue preservation in a T-Rex leg bone, you find soft tissue everywhere. And a team of scientists, 10 scientists, spending 8 years researching radioactive decay and where that fit into biblical history and how to compare creation and the flood model, were able to find carbon-14 in fossils from the upper layers, middle layers, and lower layers of what's called a geologic column, these sedimentary rocks full of fossils that are laid down. You see them really great, you know, in Grand Canyon, but everybody's seen them in a road cut or along a creek bed or a drive up into the mountains. These layers, limestone, sandstone, shale, full of fossils, and so on. And they all had carbon-14 in them, all about the same amount of carbon-14, and all just thousands of years ago. It really looked like the evidence was telling us all those fossils from the bottom to the top were laid down at about the same time, a few thousand years ago. And even if you hadn't read the Bible, if you heard somebody reading the Bible, what was that? What was that you were saying about a worldwide flood? Mm-hmm. It'd really catch your attention. You'd be forced to postulate that. Well, the founding fathers of geology were sure when they were looking at fossils and rock layers, those were the plants and animals buried in Noah's flood. Nobody even questioned that. That seemed obvious. And the more you study it, actually, the more sure you can be of that particular idea. But then that raises another question. Why is there a sequence? And so, you know, when I go fossil hunting, I like to know what layer I'm looking in, you know, what, and they just use 12 names for 12 different geologic systems worldwide. And, you know, and if I want to find sea bottom creatures, you know, I might say, are there any Cambrian rocks around here, or Ordovician or Silurian? And so those rocks are just chock full of sea creatures, and not much in the way of plants, not much in the way of woody plants, or not much in the way of, well, there's some fish as you go. In fact, there's a lot of fish, but not near as many as there are in other layers. So if I really want sea creatures, that's a good place to hunt. If I really want to find a lot of plants, okay, then I'll say, have you got any Pennsylvanian deposits around here? Or in Europe, they call it Carboniferous, Pennsylvanian, Mississippian. That's where you can find a lot of great plant fossils. And if I want to find dinosaurs, well, of course, everybody knows one thing that goes with dinosaurs is Jurassic. There's rock called Jurassic or Cretaceous or Triassic. They've got a lot of dinosaurs in it. And so there does seem to be kind of a pattern out there. You find certain kind of fossils in certain layers. And so once again, the evolutionist says, see, I told you so. You know, these layers and the different plants and animals you see in them, those are stages in evolution. Well, Charles Darwin wanted to believe that. He knew about, now there wasn't a lot of study going on yet, but he knew about that. And he was hoping, expecting that those layers would show changes from simpler creatures to more complex creatures, and they'd show you know, how an arm could evolve into a wing, or an arm could evolve into a flipper for a fish, or a fish flipper could evolve into a leg for a land animal. Evolution, you know, can go any way you want it to. And he was sure that that's what should be there. But his chapter on fossils was called The Imperfection of the Geologic Record. He called fossils the most obvious and serious objection to his theory of evolution. Wow, the total opposite of what everybody thinks. And what was the reason? One of the things he said was he knew about the complex creatures in the lowest known fossil-bearing strata. He was expecting simple creatures. He was expecting when you looked at old rock, you know, at the bottom, that you'd find things, you'd say, what is that? What is it? I don't know what that is. It's an early stage of evolution. It doesn't look like any animal or plant I ever saw. No, exactly the opposite. Even Darwin knew that those creatures at the bottom are fantastically complex. One of the most abundant creatures is the nautilus, Well, a nautilus, is a shelled squid. And the one today is a small round one like that, but they have them as fossils as big as tractor tires that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars when they're polished up and so on. And they used to have long banana-shaped ones, 17 feet long, just spectacular things that bring big prices at rock shows. And they're right at the bottom. They have an eye that sees the world like we do. They have 3 hearts, arteries, capillaries, veins, a 2-hemisphere brain. In other words, simple animals they are not. And the change is actually you have all these animals at the bottom, and then the only thing that changes is how the shell attaches to the chamber cross wall. You never find any simple creatures. The sequence is not one animal changing into another kind of animal or another kind of animal, one plant changing into another. It's complex sea creatures on the bottom, followed by complex near-shore life forms in the next layers, followed by complex lowland life in the next layers, followed by complex upland life in the top layers. What you're looking at in clear, simple, unmistakable record, a mile deep in Grand Canyon, is a record of Noah's flood. As the water, of course, the first Noah's flood, Noah's in the ark for 1 year and 10 days. And the waters continued to rise for 150 days until they covered all the high mountains at least 22 feet deep, so the ark could go right across the top of them. And so, of course, the first things to be buried would be the heavy-shelled bottom dwellers. That's exactly what we find. Not simple, complex, heavy-shelled bottom dwellers like the nautilus. And then as that sediment gets built up, then you can trap the faster swimmers. You get some fish in the bottom, but you get more fish farther up and different kinds that live closer to shore. And the kinds of corals change from the ones on the bottom to nearer shore. It's an ecological flood sequence. And then you get the near shore plants, you get the lowland plants, lots of ferns and fern allies and tree ferns, and then you get the kind of plants that live higher in well-drained soil. And so we see that reflected today. Wow. I did that to a radio announcer one time. What do you think about fossils? And I said, I think Darwin is exactly right about fossils. She said, oh, excuse me, I thought you were the creationist coming to the debate. I said, I am the creationist. But I'd already, now she had to ask me, what do you mean? You believe Darwin was right about fossils? And then I had to tell her that. Complex beginnings, ecological transitions, rapid burial during Noah's flood, rapid formation of fossils, all of these things support those. God's Word is the surest guide to understanding God's world. It's not impersonal. It's artwork, it's treasure. It's things made, by God, the same God who made you. And He wants you to use these things like Jesus used object lessons to understand Him better and your relationship to Him. And boy, oh boy, fossils and that sequence of fossils really helps us. It points to creation, complexity in the beginning, corruption, death brought on by sin, catastrophe, Noah's flood. But most importantly, it tells us about deliverance. The whole world is covered with layer upon layer of these fossils. And yet here we are, because God provided a way of escape. Not just a way of escape, a way of entrance to a new and eternal realm with Him.
Let all creation rejoice before the Lord, for He comes. He comes to judge the earth. He will judge the world in righteousness and the peoples in His faithfulness.
Gary, you have some books here. Can you tell us a little bit about these books that you have that you've written?
Oh, yes. This one on fossils is fully illustrated, lots of colorful diagrams. And about half of the pictures come from fossils in our museum down in Florida. And there's a double page spread that compares, the evolutionary belief about fossils with the creation belief, how all of these fossils are the remains of plants and animals that lived at the same time in different places and were rapidly buried one after the other from sea bottom to mountaintop during the year of Noah's flood. And that example I used of the Nautilus, several pictures of those are in here. And other things that you'll hear evolutionists talk about, and how the rest of the story points away from evolution toward creation. Building blocks in earth science talks about the eruption of Mount St. Helens and details about Grand Canyon. At Mount St. Helens, scientists from all over the world photographed geology on steroids, the rapid formation of canyons, the rapid formation of rock layers, rapid formation of fossils, rapid formation of, coal seams and polystrate fossils, seen and photographed by scientists from around the world. And God just showing them evolution doesn't make any sense. Look at your own film. Yeah. Look at what you've seen. I've shown it to you right here. So you are what? Without excuse. This is a lot of those ideas, and how the gospel's reflected in fossils for young people. This is the most popular book we ever wrote, Dry Bones and Other Fossils. Sometimes I'll see a college student bring up one of these books that his mom read to him when he was 3, and he read it when he was 5,
So these books that you have here, how can people get a hold of them?
The Saskatchewan Creation Society, maintains some of these that available for purchase. We have them at conferences we go to. Master Books can send these out. They've got a real easy 800 number. I think that works up here too.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Yeah, 800-999, 3777. So that's one of those numbers you can remember, 999-3777. And they carry all of these, plus a wide range of other books. And it's just a thrill to see so many creation books on all the topics, available to help Christians now. Here's one of my favorite books. And so this is a complete zoo adventure, a field trip in a book. And it's the publisher, Master Books, did beautiful animal pictures and, human interest pictures, field guide for parents, homeschool parents, Christian school teachers, anybody interested in getting the most out of a zoo trip, or if you don't have a zoo right around you, this is your zoo trip. It's just like being there. And then in the back, there are animal fact cards, things that you can use, for games. There's activity sheets for teaching that students can fill out, and you're giving written permission in the book to do that and make photocopies you can use for a group of homeschoolers or a Christian school class. It's just totally awesome. And it gives you a hands-on feel, like it says, a field trip in a book, and it'll help you understand the plants and animals that live in your area and why different plants live in different parts of the world. And again, there's a devotional series for preparation for your zoo trip, or preparation for looking at the animals in the book. And so it talks about God's creation, man's sin, corruption, Noah's flood, catastrophe, and deliverance, Christ. All those scriptural truths are woven in and help us understand and rejoice in the world in which we live, even in times of trouble. We know God is working His deliverance right now. After my retirement from full-time college teaching, Mary and I started a museum in the little town of Arcadia, Florida, down in South Florida. And Peace River flows through there, is loaded with fossils of mammoths, mastodons, saber-toothed tigers, a giant ground sloth bigger than T-Rex, a giant armadillo as big as a big van, or a truck, as well as sharks, including shark teeth that indicate sharks that could be 60 feet long, things, sea creatures, land creatures buried together. It's a special deposit of fossils generated by storms that followed Noah's flood in the south, like the ice followed Noah's flood in the north.
Do you have a website address that if people are interested, where can they go to find out this information?
Our website is creationadventuresmuseum.org, and that tells about our programs, and you learn all about creation, and it's all hands-on. So you hunt your own fossils. There's a beach trip involved, shell hunting, telescope work, all kinds of things, and interaction with other Christian families. It's really an awesome experience. We have a lot of displays. And so real specimens that you really touch, handle, and so on. And in prep for fossil trips, you get to do a sort. And so you learn how to identify them. And that transfers to anywhere you are. You'll learn how to find fossils in your area, as well as the ones that you find around there. It's a great opportunity for learning and supporting families and young people and trusting God, taking God at His Word and see how it works to explain His world and give us a joy of looking forward to His coming again.
Since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, His eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, and all are justified freely by His grace through the redemption that came by Christ Jesus.
Thank you, Gary, for sharing with us. That gave us a glimpse of how powerful God worked through the flood. With all those layers of earth and fossils, God preserved for us the evidence of His creation and the flood. That's so amazing to see. The stars in heaven, the beauty of the earth, the mystery and richness of life, and even the existence of the fossils are evidences that God is the origin of the whole world. The Bible tells us that we can clearly see God in all of His creation, and we can also get to know Him if we want to. When somebody asked if it is possible to find God, they said, "If you're searching for the light, you will find it." And the Bible says, you will find God if you seek with all your heart. So, if you're searching for God, you will find Him. Jesus says about Himself, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." If you want to have a relationship with God, you need to understand that you are a sinner and that you need Jesus Christ who died for you. Do you want to get right with God? Call us and we can pray with you. During our last song, we will be showing again the link to Gary Parker's Creation Adventures Museum and also where you could find his books. Thank you for tuning in to Tribal Trails. God bless you.
I may not be rich, don't wear fashion clothes, don't live in a mansion, don't have much that shows, never won a contest, popularity, don't have much to offer, but Jesus loves me. I'm accepted, accepted. I'm accepted by the one who matters most. Never set a record in sports agility, never was magnetic in personality. That don't really matter, I'll do the best I can, 'cause there's a God above me who loves me like I am. I'm accepted,